Hello and welcome to episode 6 of Agents of Clicks, a bi-monthly podcast for everything HeroClix. My name's Sean and I'm joined once again by fellow agents Christopher Dunn and Dale DeAndrade. Hello guys, you alright?
Hello.
Yep.
Hello.
Hello.
I thought for a moment you'd gone. Yeah.
Me and Dale thinking who's going to say that first.
We'll work out one of these days.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
Have you been? You've been getting much HeroClix gaming in the past fortnight?
More than usual.
Me and Dale are still pausing.
Okay, well, I tell you what, I'll direct that question to you, Dale. Have you got much HeroClix gaming in the past fortnight?
More than usual. I went to the Beanie Games pre-release for Deadpool and the X-Force, and after all the bashing that we've done on the set that it's not competitive, it's cute and fun, but nothing else. It really is fun. I mean, when I played it, I loved it. Loads of weird characters that, I don't know, they're not very strong particularly, but just do things you don't see very often, and I just had fun with that.
How did you do in your previous deal?
I went unbeaten. I felt a little bit cheating because the way we play it isn't, as far as I'm aware, the normal way. You can get a booster, pick one model out of it, draft it around, and you play all 5. Whereas I always assumed it was 2 boosters, build 300 points. For the majority of them, I ended up with a few more points than most people because the set is a little bit undercosted. It's kind of the new standard where everyone's a bit cheaper. So I ended up with more than 330, 350 points, and almost everyone I played was like 270, 250 kind of point edge.
Right. It is always a little bit weighted to you normally find. I think I did the World's Finest draft at Beanie Games, and you tend to find out if you pull there's that one figure, isn't it, that just wrecks out because they're 300 points or whatever, and you're playing that along with 4 other figures, then it does feel a bit unfair.
You do know you're speaking to Dale, who pulled the World's Finest in that, and played that at 300 points.
Yeah, yes he did, didn't he? Yes he did. I thought I was bad because I pulled Alloy, yeah, so I think that was the most...
The Dale's team was about 600 points.
Yeah, it was.
575, and to be fair, apart from against Sean, who did have another 500 plus pot model, I did send the rest of the team first, and then if that team lost, I then sent in Superman. It's a bit of a strange way of doing it.
Yeah. We did. If it's any consolation,
we did the same.
We did exactly the same way. Yeah.
It's not so bad in that set because there wasn't any big, huge figures, or if there were rare or rarer. I don't think there's that many sort of really high point figures in the set anyway.
No, not particularly. I think apart from the chase, it's almost everyone's less than 100 points. And there's only a couple of people who are over that.
Yeah,
and then the ones who are over
that works out all right for that set. Yeah, in a set like the World's Finest, it doesn't sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, I had some fun with it. The Deadpools I managed to pull 2 of them. The Flasher Deadpool, the X-Force one specifically, and the common Blitz Claws Fangs one, and they were great. I mean, I think my favourite figure for my team, I played the 2 Deadpools. I got Angel Dust, Dr. Killbrew, and Anarchist, and I think Anarchist is my favourite of the lot to play. Maybe because he's the only X-Force member I had, so the Flasher Deadpool had a lot to help him with. He had a Plex and a probability control on him. But just the idea of being a running shot next to someone, shooting for Psychic Blast, and then start poisoning people. It's that was funny. I enjoyed that. It's not something you normally get to play. Figures can't normally do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Chris, you had... Well, you were the same pre-release as I was, so how did you get on? What did you pull?
Trying to remember now. I pulled the big purple thing.
Monster Form Shikla. Yeah. In Monster Form.
That was a super rare. I got handed by you.
Yeah.
Domino and Solo. And Bedlam, and who was the other one I had? I remember that.
I should know because you wiped me out with it. I don't know. I can't remember.
I can't remember now. Yeah, so I think it was because you seem to be collecting for rarity. So you got 2 sort of cheap like Hellcow and Howard the Duck, and then you passed me Domino and Solo. So I think my team was probably the highest points of the people I played against anyway.
Yeah.
While I'm saying this, I'm trying to go through the list and see who it was I played.
You played me in the first round.
No, I'm trying to go through the list of
the figures.
Think,
Yeah.
Who was it that I had? It was Grizzly. That was it.
Oh yes, of course.
Grizzly is quite good as well. Yeah. So it was a pretty good team. I liked Solo with his little teleporty moving about. He was quite good.
Yeah, that was good. That was good. The teleporting, the kind of. I want to use the word bamf, but he's not Nightcrawler.
He was pretending he was out of the shadows Batman, really. Yeah. But he was pretty good because he was a free action move. He didn't actually have to do anything that turn. So even if he was like double token or something, he can still move, put him in a square within 4 squares, as long as he can has range line of fire onto an opposing character. So once you've moved up, you're pretty much always going to do that. There's a huge array of squares you can put him in.
Yeah.
Domino was pretty good with a prob and obviously a stealth, and the big purple thing hits somebody over the head with a heavy object, really.
Yes.
So that won me a couple of games until I've played final round against a new guy who pulled Swarm and the dog Deadpool.
Yeah.
And he just kept rolling shape change all the time with both of them. So I think I'd killed the rest of his team. He was down to them. And Dog Deadpool was about to get clobbered in the face for 7 off the big purple lady, but rolled his shape change. And I think Swarm kept rolling his shape change and super senses all the time. And even if you were hitting him, he was doing 1 damage. So I lost by a few points in the final. But yeah, I think the figures I'd seen, nice and cheap. It tends to be the teams. I quite like teams not having a lot of willpower as well, because there isn't very many. I mean, this has been a general trend of things not getting indom, for example. But some of the Deadpools have. Didn't see any cables around, but I think he's got indom. But there's really not a lot of willpower in the set.
No.
And it's just really nice to play where you actually have to think, am I going to put a second token on this person or not? And you think, no, you're being a bit cagey, you're going, well, I'm not going to push, I'm not going to push. Yeah, I like that sort of teams. Obviously, sealed is a bit random for it if you're building a team in constructed. It's nice to play like a swarm team. But yeah, I enjoyed myself.
I tell you who did have willpower or indom. Hellcow. Yeah. So I pulled Hell. I mean, as you said, Chris, I was drafting for rarity, because I'm one of these people who wants to try and get every figure in the set. So I was kind of fortunate enough to pull a super rare in my booster. Unfortunately, that super rare was Hellcow. So I picked Hellcow. I ended up with, I think it was Hellcow, Howard the Duck, Asp, who for me was the one who did the most damage just by that special incap that she's got. Massacre, I think it was, and one other who I can't remember who that one other was. But I went 0-3. I never won a game in my pre-release. So, but it was fine. It was fine. It was still fun to play. But yeah, in hindsight, maybe I should not have picked for rarity and should not have passed you that domino.
Instead of, and then he still passed me the Solo 75. I can't remember what you picked. So I don't know how I got both of them. You picked Howard.
I don't know.
Yeah, probably like the Hellcow and Howard, and you should have had Domino and Solo. Maybe.
Yeah. But
I still get Howard. I keep thinking Howard the Duck's quite good, but then I look at him and I think they could have just given him Outwit instead of that special damage power, which is like a bit weird.
Which I never used at all in the entire.
Yeah. You should have just turned off Steel Energy, because your Hellcow was like pointless having it.
Yeah, true. Unfortunately, I didn't come across anyone else who had it as well. So.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so
Chasing friendly character kind of. Yeah. It's a bit of an awkward power, that.
yeah, but I mean, like I was using it as a it's just someone to carry people around and
Oh, no, I was
she's got
saying
support.
Howard's.
So
I mean the damage.
oh,
power
sorry,
Howard did that.
yeah,
I think Hellcow in the set wasn't too bad just for a taxi with sidestep.
yeah.
Obviously, and support. Hard to like pull off Steel Energy with a low attack values, but I don't think any of the vampire sort of
the vampire
characters
devs
have ever
are-
been very good, have they?
Yeah, they're all pretty bad, aren't
Because
they?
they always start on a really bad click, and then
Yeah.
apart from maybe the Dracula in the first Amazing Spider-Man set wasn't bad because he actually started on a half decent click. But if you've got like 9 attack, it's like you're never going to steal energy.
Oh well. So that's what we've all been up to then. Well, we'll move on. We'll move on to news. Dale, are you gonna cover some news as what's been sort of spoilt and what's been in the news in the last few weeks?
So
hand over to you.
for once, it's not ridiculously big, massive piles of stuff. It's normally been that the news has taken up about half of our talking time. Just me talking rubbish because there's been so much going on. A bit quieter this time. We had just some leaked images, really, of the new sets and the odd model here and there from it. There's some what if model sculpts that have popped up around. I don't know if anyone's seen those. There's a handful of them. Loki and Dormammu duo fig. A long list of people. What if they become Sorcerer Supreme? I'm pretty sure I've seen Iron Man as it, Punisher as it, Spider Man as it. I'm thinking, is this maybe it's just is it? I think. Well, don't you think maybe there's a shifting focus for it?
That'd be good if there was. I don't know if there will be, but it would be good if there was. But it does seem certainly all of the ones I've seen images wise, it's always been the Sorcerer Supreme in one version of it.
Yeah, they all seem nice enough. I mean, I'm excited for the what ifs and Elseworld sets. They're just going to be an interesting look at things, and you're going to get characters and stories you've never seen before.
I did see an Elseworlds sculpt that looked like the Joker as Batman, which looked quite. I did see that one on display, so that looked quite interesting. But no dials, just the sculpt itself.
Yeah, that's been one of the things that, like, whenever I've seen them, they've not even had like points on them. It's just literally been like the base scrubbed clean and just the sculpt.
Yeah.
So there's not really an awful lot to talk about it. Just still excited for them. We'll see when they come out. We've had a couple of images of Colossals. There's a Colossal Groot that was leaked at, was it the, not the conventions, the
Gamma trade show.
The trade shows. They've a couple of slides out there talking about future sets, and in that was a Colossal Groot. It looks like the Guardians of the Galaxy one that brought it out last year, but really massive. And Captain America has an image out as well. I was expecting it to be different, having no idea like what it actually is. I was expecting like a robot, but it just looks like a giant Captain America.
Yeah.
Well, it is a robotic giant Captain America, really. So
I know, but like, he's got like a person's face. Like it just looks like those HeroClix Extreme giant Superman, but it could easily just be another one of them as far as I've seen.
I think I was expecting something like Captain America Sentinel or something like that. But
yeah, I thought it was going to be something like that, or Captain America, like big Captain America model, like half his face missing, like Terminator style, with like robot bits out.
That would have been cool.
But I don't know where it's from, so I don't know why. But he's just a giant Captain America. There's also the Guardians of the Galaxy set that's out in April to follow the movie. That's had a couple of leaked pictures and dials and things. They just look like they're doing the movies. I mean, it's there's no like outstanding shot at the moment. There's a Yondu chase that has a red swirl for his arrow. That looks alright, but I mean the rest of them are just seeming just be the normal kind of fighting pose models for them. There's been a couple of dials leaked. There's a couple of them have been put out by the HeroClix site, specifically Drax Is it just Drax and Yondu who've had those the?
I think there's been a Star-Lord one as well.
I've missed the Star-Lord one if there is one. But I found that so apparently the lovely people at HG Realms has found more than I have, so I've just pulled them up. There is a common Star-Lord who is 70 points, Psychic Blast for most of his dial. It's not a super exciting dial. He's 70 points. The only real standout interesting thing is his trait. He can use Leadership and Outwit, but if he rolls a critical hit when he's attacking, he can use Outwit 2 more times. It's not likely to happen, but if he does, that's going to be funny. The Drax is weird. I mean, his numbers are shocking, but he has a trait where he has Colossal Stamina, and he has +1 to all his combat values for each action token he has on him. So it's kind of running this, how much do you push him? How much do you keep pushing him to keep him at that top end, knowing that he's going to die. When he does clinically, he heals, which is nice. But I mean, he only has 5 clicks of health, and 4 of them have toughness. So I mean, he's not going to survive all that long. Gamora is. I don't even know what to say about Gamora. You might as well. I could be looking at any of the dials that Gamora's ever had. They all look pretty much the same.
Yeah.
It's just someone who uses blades, precision strike, combo reflexes. That's pretty much the dial. The rare Star-Lord, I'm not sure if this is the one that was previewed or not. Bigger, the other one, hypersonic speed, element gun, given an energy explosion and precision strike, and all of his attacks cause knockback. He gets that for his first 4 clicks, and a trait where if Star-Lord is the first character to attack in a turn, it doesn't count towards your action total. That's nice.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
The other things we know the chases. One is the Yondu, who's been shown already, and he's a bit expensive, I think, for what he's doing, but he's got an interesting white special power for his damage, where when he attacks, hits a person, he can then make an attack as if he's in that square, and he can keep doing that until he's hit everybody he can. Essentially, as long as he keeps hitting, so it's like hit character 1, shoot character 2, hit them, great. Now shoot as if you character 2, character 3, keep doing that. Just do 2 damage to all of them. He's got no way of making that penetrating, or there's like a precision strike to make sure it does his damage. But yes, he does.
Because that's his special attack. That's his special attack. Yeah.
And his trait says he can't. His ranged attacks can't be reduced below 1.
Can't be reduced below 1. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see I'm reading these as I'm talking. But yeah, he's alright. There's a Nebula out as well, who is probably a little bit expensive for what she does, but she's got blades where she rolls 2d6 this is traded. Blades, and she rolls 2d6, picking the best one. Has charge and flurry for the first 3 clicks. Outwit for a third click, public control, which doesn't sound right, but you're kind of flying through them. They're all interesting. The only thing I'm finding odd is the kind of mix of the names of powers and keywords. Like the Peter Quill getting multiple outwits is called I have 12% of a plan, which is from the movie. And then he has Spartoy keyword, which he obviously isn't. He's not like the son of Jason of Spartoy in that they've already said he's the son of Ego, the living planet, and I imagine they're just doing the best with what they can. I don't think the designers of the models actually get any special insight on it. But that's Guardians of the Galaxy. Anything else I've missed? A new set, entirely new set that's being shouted out. Harley Quinn and the Gotham Girls.
I wasn't expecting that.
There's also there's a few figures being shown from the Avengers Defenders War as well. But these are all from Gamma, I think, a lot of the new information. Because that happened since the last podcast, I do believe. Yeah. Anyway, go on and talk about whatever it was you were talking about.
Harley and the Gotham Girls. That's it. So it's just Harley and the Gotham Girls. They've said it's focused on Harley, and there's going to be a Harley Quinn that does something to your team. They describe it as only Arkham Asylum can do. So God knows what that's going to be.
Maybe a title character, do you think?
I'm pretty sure she's going to have a title character. I'm assuming that's probably.
Because her name's in the title of the set.
You'd think, wouldn't you?
And I'm going off.
I think we can safely assume there's going to be one. It's probably going to be the kind of new 52 red and blue version, and there'll be 2 or 3 versions in there because we haven't got enough Harley Quinns in Joker's Wild set. So they've said that the sub themes for it are more Suicide Squad, Secret Six, who are just Suicide Squad, Female Furies, if I remember right, they're Dark Sides, female bodyguards, and then the Bombshells, which are just I don't know if this is, I don't know if these are comics. I just thought they were like artworks or like alternate covers.
No, I think there's a comic as well, isn't there?
I think it started off being like
just the artwork.
Collectible figures and things, and I think they made a comic out of it at a later date.
Well, but this seems cool. I'd happily play a Bombshell team. I mean, I've seen the picture of the Bombshell Wonder Woman one, and if it does come out looking like that, I'll collect them as a team. They look good. The only confirmed figures we've got so far is the Bombshell Wonder Woman, a Stephanie Brown Robin, if anyone cares about spoiler, Harley and Poison Ivy having a duo fig.
Yeah.
And then there's 2 that people have mentioned here that I didn't see, but there's apparently a Renee Montoya in a police uniform, or could just be generic woman saying, or a female green-haired girl who could be Bianca Steeplechase, who I do not recognise as a character. Not a clue.
It'd be interesting if they only had female characters in the whole set, because those are only female characters. I mean, imagine they have some men in the set, but...
Well, we've not had any.
Don't know.
There wasn't any leaked in there. I think there was no picture.
If it's a female cop. Yeah. And this was just from Gamma as well. That was when
there's not.
That was sort of.
Not a huge amount of information out. It is just one slide at the Gamma at the moment.
You just know that the Bombshells are going to be the chasers, don't you? It's just...
Yeah, probably.
Probably, yeah.
But there you go. I think apart from that, it's just a bucket load of rules. We're on to a rule update 11, with probably being the most recent one we've seen so far. From what it sounded like, they didn't seem to have any. They didn't leave it open for any, like saying next week we're talking about the next thing, or. But they also. No, didn't...
I think they said in the last one, which is just out today, that was going to be the last of the big changes. Yeah. So they might just
have one
little bits and bobs that they're talking about and stuff.
Yeah,
yeah, maybe it's about. Anyway,
well, that's a dozen articles for you to read.
Well, we'll go on and later on, and we'll be discussing them. Oh,
actually, if that's it for news.
Can I just quickly say that there's been some images of the Avengers Defenders War. If you go on to the upcoming sets and rumours on HC Realms, there are some images as well from Gamma about some of the figures. I think they have a bit more information about some of the... So I can't remember if we'd ever talked about this in detail, but is it the next set that's coming out? Is that the next main set coming? The Avengers Defenders?
That might be. It's the set that's due out kind of May, June time, I believe. So
yeah, I think it's May.
Yeah.
Oh, it says May on the thread. So there is like a shift in focus. Doctor Strange, apparently. That might be interesting. And there's a picture of Ant-Man, yay! And with all the Avengers rotating, I do need some more Ant-Man, so I have options of how to theme the tank.
Yeah.
There's a Daredevil sitting on a throne, a Hulk, and some other bits and bobs.
Hawkeye on a chimney.
Sorry, is the
Hawkeye on a chimney?
The Daredevil on a throne? Is he in a black outfit?
Yeah, he's a Shadowlands one.
That's what I was wondering. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. I think we've had that before, haven't we? It's like a rare version from Hulk.
That was in the Hulk set. There was some Shadowlands, like a sub theme type thing.
I didn't play in that set. I stopped playing by then, but I made sure I ordered every Daredevil from that set because I like Daredevil. And I thought that was a cool storyline.
I think there'll be a few Daredevils in the set because I think he's in the Marvel Knights Fast Forces. He'll probably have a main set one, and so at least 3.
He's
And I think there's one in a yellow outfit as well, so there'll be at least 4.
he's down as
Yellow and red, yeah.
As far as I can see, he's down as a sub theme. The themes being themes to the sub themes are Avengers, Defenders, Daredevil.
There's Elektra there as well. Yeah, there'll be a few Daredevil characters and things. Yeah, so we haven't seen many of him since the Hulk, really.
Cool. Well, if that is it for news, I know you mentioned massive, massive changes to rules that we were going to cover in the rules topic. We may as well just shift onto that now. Then, if you want to do your rules,
yeah. Just before we go on to those articles, there's just a couple of rulings on the WizKids Information Network that I just wanted to highlight because I thought they were interesting. One was about a new figure from the Deadpool set, but it also affected other figures, and it was a ruling on Hammer. I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Yeah, wow. He's gone top of my want list now for that set.
Yeah, it's basically, I think the general ruling is, because Hammer he targets one character and then anybody adjacent he also targets, or words to that effect. And I think there's been a general ruling that if a special power allows you to do that, then the damage dealt is dealt to all of the hit targets. So you might calculate his damage to be 5, for example, because he can range combat expert. He's got a 2 damage. Let's say you have perplex as well. So he goes, I'm going to deal 5 damage to that person, and everybody standing next to you, I've also hit, they're all going to take 5 damage as well.
Yeah, but his special power allows you to increase his damage by +1 for every adjacent character to the original target.
And he has range expert on top of that as well. Right, so it's pretty easy to get 5 damage in, and bump with attack as well. So, yes, he's going to hit extremely hard for a 50-point figure. So, if you see him across the board, just, don't clump together. I think that general rule is going to apply to anybody whose power specifically does that. I think so. If you're going to target people outside of the normal way of targeting multiple characters with your lightning bolts, then, because they've changed the ruling on the Winter Soldier, who does the range combat expert in a line. This is the LA number 100, I think, from the Nick Fury set. Yeah. He does range combat expert in a line. I noticed that they changed his ruling to heal his normal damage to everybody, all hit targets as well. So he hasn't got to split his damage.
Wow.
His are harder to pull off because you have to make people stand in a line. But yeah, so he can hit really hard as well. I mean, if only there was an 8-point figure that you could drop on someone's head to make them all stand in a line. I mean...
I wonder if they'd ever come out with such a thing.
And then with him, you could mind control him if you had a high-point scientist to do it again.
Oh.
Yeah. So getting people to stand in a line in try and work that out. Yeah. So you can play him and get everybody to stand in a line repeatedly shoot them for about 6 damage. I think he has range combat expert and
3 damage. I think it is.
3 damage or something like that. And then
It doesn't take much to get there.
Yeah, but I think standing in a line bit is a hard bit. But anyway, I don't think he has any move and attack either, does he? So. Anyway, so that's a general rule. So watch out for any characters that can multi-target without using like the standard lightning bolts, because I think that's going to be the ruling from now on. And the other ruling I just wanted to highlight was just about going back to the Pym tank, because it's just a trigger of when I'll just get the exact error. I can't find it now. Because it triggers on the wording of the tank or when it hits, but so the replacement triggers on a hit. So I basically asked a question on when that's when for the timing of the damage, do you deal the tank 2 penetrating damage first before the damage from the original attack, or what comes first? And they basically ruled it that They both trigger on a hit, which is slightly different than the way they've ruled that sort of effect in the past. So they said they both trigger on a hit to the active player chooses the order. So you can drop the tank and start moving people around, then deal 2 penetrating everybody, and then deal the damage from the attack. Or you can deal damage from the attack and then place a tank and deal the 2 penetrating. So that's the best of both worlds, really. So if somebody's got impervious for 2 clicks or something, you deal the tank penetrating damage first, and then you deal damage from the attack, where maybe to have a different defense power. So anyway, again, that makes it even better. So those are just 2 rulings I just wanted to highlight, because I think they're going to crop up if you're playing, competitively. So don't get caught out. Right, so anybody want to add anything to that before I go on to the articles?
No, just that last ruling on the tank just makes it even more dangerous, doesn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Honestly, especially you can do things about the fact that you move people around before you deal the damage, because it could affect things that, like, well, I don't know, Mastermind, for example. You suddenly go, well, you're not even adjacent to that person, you've got a Mastermind on you. Or things like Jarvis, who needs to be next to an Avenger to get his special power. So there's lots of little ways which it benefits it. Anyway, on to the articles. Well, I think we left off I can't remember exactly which one the last time was, but the one we'll talk about this starting off with is Outwit change. There was an article on Outwit. Basically, they mentioned before that when you use a power or possess a power, that was going to come combined into one thing. That's nothing new. They just reinforced that. So basically, Outwit has been worded to say that you choose a power, and it has standard or special power. You target the opposing character within range and line of fire, and the target cannot use the chosen power until your next turn. So this means you can basically got rid of counter. So I think in the next one of the next articles, they also get rid of ignore. So they're getting rid of those 3 things which did pretty much the same thing. So they're just all of these are now just saying can't use, to make it simpler. So you haven't got to remember which is which. But also you can also get rid of a power that the character can't actually currently use. So if you can target something like Jakeem, who can then pick powers. So even though he currently does not have that power, you could say, well, you can't use that power until the next turn. So if you want to stop him using hypersonic speed, or you want to stop him using pulse wave or something like that, even if you haven't picked it, you can still hit him with the outwit, so you can't use the power. So, I mean, the big thing is it gets around. It's one of the reasons why Outwit isn't brilliant at the moment, is because there's so many powers that you just can't outwit, because people are getting it from equipment or resources or what have you. So this is basically a big equalizer, really. There's nothing, if you're getting impervious through Brainiac or it's on your dial, it doesn't matter. Outwit's saying you can't use that power. So obviously anything that's going from can't be countered is just going to say protected Outwit. So they're going to do the same for pulse wave and I think probability control. Yeah. Just to say, well, you, rather than just saying can't be counted or can't be ignored or can't be re-rolled, they're just trying to condense that word into just saying protected, and then they will give the power that is protected so it can't be damaged or targeted by using that power. Yep.
Yeah, sounds right.
Anybody want to add anything onto that?
No.
Obviously that makes it a lot better, I would say, Outwit, so it's something you really want to, before I wasn't really fussed about having it in my team, because I knew whoever's mic that was a bit loud.
Sorry.
So yeah, I don't think it was that essential, because you would often come across people you couldn't outwit much of their powers. I think it's become much better now, and I really want to play at least 2 people without wit on my team from now on.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just hope they don't make a change to Superman enemy team ability.
Yeah.
Well, I think they might change it, but just to simplify the wording, because it's got a really old wording. And I think a lot of the team abilities have been the same wording for a long time.
Do you think?
So you'd sing things like Outsiders, for example, having range 10 is a bit silly. So, and Superman enemy and Superman ally, it's worded, they'll just go, oh, well, it just gives improved targeting or something like that.
Yeah, I imagine that's probably...
So they'll just tidy it up, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what the next thing is going to be. As we mentioned already, they've mentioned it's not going to be that's it for big changes, but you're probably going to have lots of clean up, and that is the whole thing has been tidying up, hasn't it? Like everything has been about reducing the amount of words you need to kind of filter through to understand what's going on, and try to get rid of all of the finicky interactions between one thing or another. So I think that's probably the next thing is to kind of clear up team abilities to like just Superman is improved targeting and improved movement, hindering terrain. Job done. Like there's loads of them to clean up.
There's just a lot of things that do pretty much the same thing, but are worded slightly differently. So it's always, and sometimes they don't do exactly the same thing. So you've got to then you've got to look at the word, and so it's just a going through all that and tidying up. Hopefully, I think that's what they're going to do, which I think is what everybody's. Personally, I think that's a huge change. Even if you didn't change any of the powers, and you just kept all the powers the same, and just went through and just had consistent wording, that would help sort of new players a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, if we don't want to say anything more about Outwit, we're going to move on to the next article.
Yeah. Go for it.
So the next article was about objects, and one of the main changes is they are getting away and removing from modern ultra heavies and ultra lights. And basically now just saying those are special objects and they will not be modern. Which I think they brought them in reasonably recently. I don't think they added a huge amount, certainly not ultralights, because I can't really think that I've ever used an ultralight. An ultra heavy was just, yeah, sure, I've got a 100-point figure with super strength, I am using an ultra heavy. I don't think they added a huge amount. And there was always this confusion about a standard when it talked about heavy objects and a standard heavy. And I've had to explain to several people, a standard heavy is not an ultra heavy. So some effects, say like when vehicles get destroyed, or some people have effects that say a standard heavy object. So there's a bit of confusion, quite a bit, around when it talks about a heavy object, when it talks about an ultra heavy object. So I'm glad, to be honest, they're getting rid of them. I think the main reason they're getting rid of them, however, is to avoid just like huge damage, really. So I think they're trying to tone that down, it looks like. So as well as getting rid of them, they're also saying you're just going to have heavy and light objects now. They're saying that anyone can pick up a light object and get like the +1 damage from a close attack using it. And also they are tinkering with using sort of objects as hindering terrain. So that's only going to apply to a heavy object, and basically it only applies at the end of the turn if you're on a standard or a tiny character is on that heavy object. They are hiding. So hiding or hide is going to be a new keyword or whatever. So it's basically going to be that it's hindering terrain when it's not your turn, essentially. So you're no longer using objects to like make it hard to move around, because it's not actually hindering terrain until you actually stop on it, and then it's hindering terrain. So obviously if you're trying to use it for stealth or something,
and it's only
you actually
it's only hindering terrain when it's not your turn. Basically,
because it's not hindering terrain until you stand on it, and you're at the end, and then you end your turn on it. So if you're you can't use it anymore for like blocking corridors and things because there's no flyers or something like that, because it's not hindering terrain normally. It's only classed as hindering terrain when you stand on it and end your turn on top of the object. Anyway, so there's also in that article just tweaked super strength, really, because it's getting a little bit of a nerf, because anyone can pick up light objects and obviously just heavy objects. So it's just basically saying that super strength deals knockback, but it's sort of optional knockback. You don't have to deal it, and that's going to work on close or range attacks.
So, sorry, I'd read this, so I got that. But so if you said if I have super strength, say Superman has super strength, and he shoots you with his eye beams, that deals knockback.
Yeah. Yes, you can choose to have it deal knockback.
Okay.
Right. Okay. That is basically the article. Any thoughts on that?
I've got mixed thoughts.
The Flash is going to hit a lot of people with a lot of car doors. I think that.
Well,
we'll go on to
yeah.
that, 'cause he
Is he? I've got mixed feelings.
Hypersonic speed.
I've got mixed feelings about it.
Can't do that.
I've got mixed feelings about it. I kind of, I don't like the fact that you can't now use an object with, like, it doesn't combo with other powers now, because it's the rule.
Well, I think that's a different article actually.
Sorry,
technically,
I'm jumping ahead,
but it doesn't really matter because it talked about that in the next one when they talked about like the inherent abilities. But yes, go on. You can say what you want to say now. If you
okay,
like,
just now they're saying that they're classing attacks with objects as separate types of attacks, and they don't combo with any other powers, so you can't like charge and hit with an object.
Yeah, you can.
Can you?
You can charge and hit with an object. Yes.
I thought you
because it's just like it's like a close combat action. So you can still charge and hit with an object. What you can't do is exploit and hit with the object.
Right. Sorry.
Or flurry and hit with the object.
That's my misunderstanding.
It's basically going to be a close combat action to do an object attack.
Right.
So
that is my misunderstanding.
That's
so
fine.
so you can still charge and do that, but you can't obviously combo with flurry or exploit or something like that.
Oh well, then I'm not that upset about it. Then I misunderstood that. It doesn't make sense about giving you knockback with super strength, which also works on a ranged attack though. Kind of just.
Well, you can just imagine that Superman is picking up something and lobbing it at you. Right, a Hulk can just throw something at you. I don't think it's like, completely unreasonable to do that. They obviously wanted to give super strength a little bit of a boost because they've made it a little bit worse. So I think having knockback, it's pretty good.
I do. It's thematic.
You could often say that like having a force blast, one of the only reasons you're never going to use it for the power action, you'll use it for inherently I get knockback with it. Yeah. You can reposition people and knock them into walls, do an extra bit of damage or something like that.
I mean, it makes sense that if the Hulk hits you with a close combat attack, he's going to knock you back when he punches you. Do you know what I mean? But I just don't get the range element of it. But I'm happy. It's not going to make me want to stop playing characters with super strength.
I'll just pitch an alternative option. Why not give him something to smash walls with? I mean, obviously sitting in my head thinking about the same thing. If you try to think of a little way of buffing super strength, let him smash a wall.
Well, did they not used to do that anyway? Is that not what used to be the case in the olden days, Dale? You might remember. Did it super strength not used to like give you
smash walls down? Not in any special way. Not that I know of. I mean, I didn't play the very original version. I think the game was just going 5 years when I'd started, but. It has always essentially been you get to pick up objects and do extra damage with them. I was not aware of it having some special way of breaking walls down, but just something like a free action, you can break one adjacent wall. The same way that Superman, the super strength Superman from the shifting focus has that free action. Just put that as part of super strength, or allow them to break one wall down while they're moving. I don't know. This is not anything on the article. It's just if you try to think of ways of improving super strength that actually make sense, I think being able to break a wall that's adjacent to you is probably going to make more sense than knocking someone back from range when Superman's shooting you with his eye beams or whatever.
Well, I think you just have to get over the fact that Superman always uses his eye beams to shoot you, and I'm sure he has knocked people back in the comics using his eye beams. So just imagine that.
I guess I can understand why they're saying both close and range, just to stop the amount of questions that are raised from,
probably.
oh, well, I'm attacking you here. And I mean, that's one of the purposes of refining the rules, I guess, isn't it? So to stop, to clear up a lot of the questions that get asked currently. So that's all I've got to say.
Yeah, and I think
about
that's to say that obviously, I mean, I don't think they've set in stone.
No,
But they've said, so there may be one or two little tweaks, and I think even when the rules come out, they're going to go back and look at powers and think, oh, we've changed this power, it's not really doing what we wanted it to do, we might tweak it again.
Yeah.
So, there's always going to be little changes that they're trying to. Anyway, well, since we've started talking about the next article, let's carry on. Because it talked about, the next one is about carry, but it does talk about like the other inherent abilities, which we'll get on and discuss. So the carry is basically being changed a little bit, tweaked really. So before beginning your movement, you choose one adjacent friendly character of a smaller size. This is sort of inherent carry. Choose a friendly character of a smaller size that isn't a vehicle or holding an object. If you do, you modify your speed by -1 for each character chosen. And when movement ends, you place a character in adjacent. So, and they also, for people who have like another ability, so that's like an inherent ability. So they're changing a little bit around, or you can, how you carry somebody smaller than you. What am I looking at? If you have another ability that allows you to carry, like say the flight symbol, they're gonna have use like the passenger little symbol. Mm-hmm. So like what vehicles have. So there's gonna be a passenger symbol X, where X equals the number of characters you're allowed to carry without the wing symbol. So it's a little bit confusing. So instead of like saying a wing symbol is going to give you the character ability, it'll say the wing symbol gives you passenger 1, so you can carry somebody with the same size of you. And also they're getting rid of the additional carry from being larger size. So say a normal flyer will no longer be able to carry somebody that's its size and then a tiny. So it's only going to be able to carry one person. So there's going to be obviously the guys who have like multi taxis are going to have a passenger symbol and say 3 or whatever, but you don't actually get your extra smaller character.
Yeah.
Also, in the notes about carry, they did not mention any of the symbols. So normally the carry would say, oh, you can't carry somebody with a Joe symbol, or you can't carry somebody with a transporter symbol, or you can't carry a multi-base character. So they might need to. I don't think they've mentioned about multi-base characters, so it might be allowed to carry a multi-base character as long as it's smaller than you. So, and then they talk about other inherent ability. Do you want to talk about anything you want to mention about carry, or ask any questions about carry before I move on to other inherent abilities?
I'm sorry if you've already mentioned this, but did they mention about the minus to your movement?
Yeah, they said -1 for each character. Yeah, so rather than like a blank, sort of -2. So if you've got the ability to carry 3 characters, then you'll get a -3. Obviously, it's modifying speed, so it's going to be the rule of 3 will kick in, so you're not going to get more than -3.
Yeah.
So obviously I don't know, they haven't put the vehicle rules in either. So vehicles at the moment say they don't modify the speed value, and they can carry and ignore combat symbols and stuff like that. So we don't know if they're going to change that as yet. So vehicles are often the things that have like a multi-carry. They'll have like 3 passengers or 4 passengers.
Yeah.
But they haven't said if they're going to change that yet. Right. I'm okay to move on to other inherent abilities. Okay, so
one last small thing I want to mention on that one. They've gotten rid of the square on the map that's not on the map. you don't get, you no longer get carried and go into a little pocket world where you're on the map but not really. You just you kick the flyer fly,
Yeah.
the carrier walks off. Whoever's being carried stands there waiting until that guy's finished his thing, and then just teleports next to him.
Yeah. So anything that sort of relies on range or adjacency or anything like that, you're still going to be on the map in a square, rather than currently you are on the map but in no particular square.
Yeah.
But obviously, as soon as the movement ends, then you're placed in an adjacent square to the person who's carried you.
Yeah, and they do specifically say that if your figure can't be placed, you still take the minus to your movement, but the character just doesn't get moved.
Yeah. So if you've ended up being surrounded by different bits of terrain and characters, and you can't actually place a character, you just leave him where he is.
Yeah.
Right. Going on to the other inherent abilities, which are basically to destroy, which is just relates to destroying terrain or objects, or object attack. So as we mentioned previously, an object, say destroy, is like if you want to punch a wall. It's just basically they're turning them up, both of these things into close combat actions as we would recognize them. Or range, obviously, because you can destroy an object through range, or like throw an object as well. So currently, if you want to throw an object, it is a range combat action. So they basically just said, well, why isn't it a close combat action to hit somebody on the head with an object as well? So that is what it is. So because it's that, it no longer combos with things like exploit or flurry, or going back to what you said before, Dale, about Flash hitting people with car doors. It does. Yeah, it is. The object attack is going to be a close combat action, so you cannot use it with hypersonic speed. And all of the Supermen are crying tonight with all the hypersonic speed, super strength, that they can no longer combine together to deal 7 damage to anybody.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, me too. I never really like those characters anyway, and I think it's just, especially if they're trying to promote like swarm teams, just somebody being able to hit you from across the map and just take out one of your figures straight away.
That seems what they're going for, like the general trend, longer dials, lower damage. It seems to be that they want to make the game more than just a long setup for one attack that hits and wipes out your team or the key part of it. They want to make it a bit more of a back and forth.
Yeah. So I think if you want to, I mean, obviously it still combines with charge, so you can still charge and super strength. So you got hypersonic, you want a hypersonic, and you want to stand next to them to use the object attack on your next attack, rather than just run away and hide in the corner. But obviously it's Superman, so you will run away and hide in the corner, because that's what Superman does in the comics. So it doesn't affect so much range attacks with hypersonic speed. It just means you can't ever be hitting them over the head with an object. Are we okay with that? Okay, moving on to the next article that was concerning a bit more about hypersonic speed and also pulse wave. So we'll just finish off hypersonic speed. So they've changed it a little bit to give it more improved movement. So rather than, this is like for the non-flyers using hypersonic speed, it's basically just going to work similar to flight, where you can actually move through character squares as opposed to just being able to move through adjacent squares, which is not really a big change, but anyway, it's nice. You can no longer carry anybody during the move. This is something when I did that previous article, when they talked about changes to hypersonic speed, I thought, they're going to make it, because they changed like the splitting, they were talking about how the movement is going to split up, but they didn't say until this article how it was going to be. We're saying, it would be a bit unfair if you could carry like an enhancer up with your hypersonic speed, dude, take a shot, and then move back again. But they're saying that, so basically your passengers will be set to 0 for hypersonic speed, so you will no longer be able to carry anybody, even like somebody smaller than you. So and it's going to split the movement into 2 separate sections. So you're going to move so many squares, you're going to make your attack, and then you're going to move however much movement you've got left. But there's going to be 2 separate instances of movement rather than one instance of movement with an attack in, somewhere during that movement. So it'll mean things like you need to break away for your second movement if you decided to end up adjacent to somebody.
Yeah.
Obviously, you'll still get your plus bonus to break away from using hypersonic speed. And it also gets around a little bit about plasticity. So you'll do your movement, so plasticity it'll still end the movement, but you'll still be able to then make the attack and then try and break away if you wanted to continue your movement. Mm-hmm. So, bit of a change. It benefits you a little bit if, say, plasticity is the main thing, I think, because that sort of really nerfed hypersonic speed if you couldn't make yourself bigger. So it's nice that you can still use that. You might still get stuck there because you might then have to do the separate breakaway, but at least you're going to be able to make the attack. And the fact you can't carry, speed nerfed a little bit, I think, but I think the ability to sort of get around plasticity makes it a little bit better as well.
I think the super strength the super strength changes are a bigger nerf than this.
Yeah, but I think it turns it into more of a hit and run power. It doesn't turn it into an alpha strike power. Yeah. It says, all these flashes and things like that are what you want to be playing with hypersonic speed now. I'm not sure about if you want to be playing big. And I think things like the changes to outwit, anything that's like 250 points, and you've got hypersonic and super strength, I'll be going, I don't really want to be playing. I'll be playing that as hit and run character, and do I really want to be doing just 4 damage with a 250 point piece?
R.I.P. Batsy.
Yeah, I think that Batman Superman robot has turned into a 25 point model and never ever going to see it.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, well, Justin's going to be retired anyway, so that he's never going to be played with 150 point anyway after that. Right, so that is hypersonic speed, quite a bit of changes there. Moving on to pulse wave. Now this isn't really changed that much, they've just tidied up the wording. So it's going to read, you half your range, you have improved targeting, ignoring characters, and being able to make range attacks adjacent to characters, I think. So other characters within range can't use powers or abilities for this action. And you make a range attack targeting all characters, at least one of which must be opposing, within range of line of fire using their printed defense values. If more than one character is targeted, each hit character is dealt 1 damage instead of normal damage. So the only real changes around that are it gets around control lines of fire, because you're actually stopping powers being used before you're drawing lines of fire now. To change it the other way around. So, I don't know, Con Loki, for example, you can actually, because anything that says control lines of fire, there's 1 or 2 little things that says, you can't pulse away from me. Yes, I can. Mm-hmm. And also the use of like printed defense values. So rather than, there's always like, there's this thing that buffs my defense. Now I have to try and figure out if pulse wave ignores it or not. You don't have to worry about that. So it's just using your printed defense value. And they've also, as I say, because they've got rid of ignored, they're just using the can't use. They've also brought in protected pulse wave, which basically, instead of can't be ignored, they just said protected pulse wave means you can't target or damage somebody using pulse wave. Which is basically, they're going to probably just errata everybody that's got a power that says can't be ignored. We'll just have protected pulse wave. So it's made pulse wave, I think, even a little bit better, but I think it's only done that by getting rid of those corner cases where you had weird things that says you can't control lines of fire. And you just got rid of them, and it stayed pretty much the same. Mm-hmm. Anybody want to add anything to that?
Rip Mystique. Like, it's just
Well, Mystique could always be pulse waved anyway, because it's just like she says, it can't be targeted.
Yeah, but like that
So you can still pulse wave her anyway. I think it's
that whole like is it the I will get my words out. What is it? It's Wizard and Loki and that whole idea of big character carrying around medium character who can't be seen and is used as a wall and all that rubbish is just. I'm glad that's gone.
I mean, I know ATAs are retiring anyway, but like if they weren't, then Midnight Suns and stuff it would turn off, wouldn't it? Because it would turn off your stealth before you need to draw line of fire. So
yeah. And it makes it a bit simpler, I think, by that, because the wording of Pulse Wave was quite a lot, and I think that's cut down. I think that's one thing they're doing as well. You know, why use, like, 20 words where you can use 10 if it means the same thing? Okay, so going on to the next article, they talked about mind control, and this has been substantially changed.
Can I just, before we move on? What... So it says Pulse Wave, half range, other characters within range can't use powers or abilities. It doesn't say within range and line of fire. So
but if you're not drawing lines of fire to them, you're not attacking them anyway.
No, but let's say hypothetically you're using a character with Pulse Wave who was pulse waving somebody. Behind that person is some elevation, and the other side of that elevation is Nick Fury, who has prob, but Nick Fury is still within your range of your pulse waver, but that pulse waver doesn't have line of fire, so Nick Fury can't prob that pulse wave.
Yes, I don't think you can, because it doesn't say range of line of fire.
As it's worded now, that's probably the case, but I imagine that was either an oversight by them or a specific thing that they're happy to go. No, basically, when you're pulse waving, half your range is a null zone. Only you have powers. Everyone else is just there to be a target, and that's it.
They might change it if they realise. They might say, because I don't think it would be. No, because they said line of fire. If they said range and line of fire, then you get back to corner cases which say, well, you can't draw line of fire.
Exactly, yeah.
So I can use that. You can't draw, you'll have to say, you can't draw line of fire, it makes them in stealth. So you can't turn off my stealth, so now you can't attack me.
Fair enough, yeah.
Yes, so I think they're going to just, I don't think they're going to have to say range and line of fire. Because then they're going to have to go back and then go, well, we've cocked it up again. Now we have to change something else.
Just for the record, it wasn't me who pointed that out. It was Matty when he was reading the power the other day. He was like, well, what about this scenario?
I think the fringe case of somebody who for some reason say can use probability control without line of fire, if this is trying to reroll someone through a wall, them not be able to do that just because they're in range is easy to explain and just get over than the whole I'm in stealth, well you can shoot me because I'm in height, you can't get rid of my stealth because I'm hiding and all that rubbish. I think that's a better case of it. The lesser of two evils, considerably.
There will be one or two little corner cases like that, but I think that's going to be few and far between, really, where they've got a power that makes a difference. Because they've got printed defense values as well, so it's not as if you can say, because previously you might be able to you'll perplex their defense and you're outside the area effect, so it affects their defense or something like that, which you can't do now because they're saying printed defense values. So it might be things like prob or other things that have got another re-rolly power or anything like that. Anyway.
Okay.
We can move on to mind control.
Move on. Yep.
Okay. Mind control has been substantially changed, really. So it's a closer range attack, minimum range 4. So instead of normal damage, a hit character halves their speed and becomes friendly to your force, and in either order may move and or make an attack. Then it reverts forces. And after resolutions, which is a new wording for after action resolve, you deal this character 1 feedback damage if all hit characters' total points value is 150 points or more. So they've basically simplified this a lot, I think, just to avoid all those weird questions about what happens if I mind control somebody and I make them mind control somebody else, and then I make that person mind control somebody else.
Or what happened if I mind control
And-
Clarion and then give him a free action to release
Bring
Tickle?
Tickle.
Yeah.
Is that Tickle my Tickle, or is that Tickle still there's Tickle? Yes, so they've got rid of all of that, really. And it's basically said, well, even if you haven't got charge or running shot, I'll give you that, because I'll let you make a move and I'll make you attack. So they try to buff it a little bit like that, because often sometimes you think, well, I'll mind control that person, and then he's got no one he can attack because he hasn't got run shot or something. So what's the point? That's absolutely useless. So at least they've buffed it a little bit with that, but they've got rid of all the shenanigans you could basically do with it. So I'm not 100% sure about that. I can't think that there's many decent mind controllers anyway, and I haven't really played anybody with mind control for a long time. But
For me, it's definitely a buff. I mean,
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
the silly fringe cases was just silly, and it was like they never came into play. Whenever they did, they were either like horrendously game breaking and ended up having to get like errated out of oblivion, or they just never happened. I mean, I'm this version of it where it's like, oh, I could bring along a cheeky little mind controller and get, actually reposition someone, get some damage in. Sounds good.
yeah, especially like if you've just got a cheap figure. There's not really many. If you've got like multi-target mind controller, obviously normally you'd want better than like single targets, because you still with mind control you have to hit twice, which is one of the things that you don't really see many people use it. So often the people you're using with mind control are people with like special mind control that do fancy things, like free action mind control with Brother Voodoo. I think of the last time I played anybody with mind control.
But he was
Yes,
so good.
so they've buffed it a bit to do the move and attack, but no more shenanigans, I'm afraid. No more stealing Dr. Demonicus's like Pog and things like that.
Okay. I tried that once, it didn't work.
Okay, so moving on from mind control, we've got two more left to go through. This was out just yesterday. This is about Invincible, Precision Strike, and Energy Explosion. So, Precision Strike, they've nerfed it a bit because it was too good. Now, it only works on a single target, so only if you're attacking a single target. So instead of just saying it can't be evaded, it basically just says your evade rolls up -1, and your damage can't be reduced below 1. So it still combines, they haven't made it a separate action or anything, it still combos with any other attack powers.
But you've
Obviously, if you've got a multi-target guy like Green Arrow and things like that, who wants to shoot 3 people with his Precision Strike to kill 3 Colossals, tough. You can only hit, only works on 1 target. And obviously, even if you've got Super Senses, it doesn't get rid of it altogether. Which everybody with like can Super Sense on a 4 or something like that will be very happy. And it doesn't get around like Mastermind, because obviously the changes to Mastermind mean that you don't really need Precision Strike to get around that.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, so
The-
I'm really happy with that. I don't think that it was too good previously, really. So
It makes
they
sense.
need a nerf. Yeah, I'm not sure about that nerf, because it's like there's fairly few things to try and remember with it, rather than just like one sentence going like only works on single targets, and -1 evade and damage can't be reduced. You got 3 things. But yeah, I mean they need to change it. So
I'll take that over
I'm not
nothing.
100% sure on it. Yeah. So Invincible, basically, I think they needed to change Invincible because they were getting rid of Ignore. So they had to think about, well, how do we reword Invincible without using Ignore? So what they've come up with is they've got the damage is getting reduced by 2, but it can reduce penetrating, but you take a maximum of 3 damage no matter what. So this works out as it is better versus 2 damage, but it is slightly worse versus 5 damage. So you are taking, with 5 damage, you're taking 3, when previously you would only take 2. But against 2 damage, you're taking nothing, but previously you would take 1.
I'll take that
So
trade.
I think it's got a... Yeah, it's got a buff, because how many, you're going to get hit with 2 damage more often than you're going to hit by 5
Especially
damage.
with
The tanks, the tank getting dropped on your head and atom punching in the face are 2 things that happen quite a lot, or going to happen quite a lot in the future. So Invincible is going to ignore, well, it's not going to ignore all of that, it's going to reduce all of that, because it can reduce penetrating damage. Yeah.
Sounds good.
It's not a big change, but I think it does improve it a bit, because previously sometimes, especially when you're getting hit by 2 damage, was a bit where you thought, well, I'd rather have invulnerability at this point.
Yeah, I think that was the best thing for me. Like, obviously clearing up the maths behind it was nice, but I think the major thing
because
is that somebody hit me for 2 damage, it's still going to do 1 damage, because that's just annoying when it's meant to be like. Realistically, it's supposed to be a step up from impervious, so why is it worse in certain situations?
Yeah, it was situational, wasn't it? So you could try and play around there by hitting them with 2. But yeah, it's just made it better, and they've got rid of you're halving the damage, and now I have to remember to round down, but I'm really rounding up. But yeah, anyway. So the last one is Energy Explosion, which they've turned it into its own range action. So it's no longer combos with other powers. It uses the range keyword. So you're making a ranged attack, and all of the characters adjacent to the original target also become targets of the attack. And hit characters are then dealt 2 damage instead of normal damage. Which I've got a little note here to say you do not need to hit the original target as well, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it does not combo with things like the penetrating Psychic Blast, which is the one time where you would want to use Energy Explosion a lot if you had that combo. So I think for me, it sort of buffs those people who only had 1 Lightning Bolt and had Energy Explosion, and you also thought, well, that's a bit rubbish. So at least those sort of cheaper characters that have 1 target and Energy Explosion, you think, oh well, that does a bit. And you can hit quite a few people. If you have more bolts, dealing a lot of 2 damage, because you might normally not be able to deal 2. If you have like 3 lightning bolts and only 3 damage, you normally deal 1 damage, and then to people you hit. So it swings and roundabouts really. I think the fact that it no longer combos. But I think Psychic Blast was the one thing that you were always comboing it with. So I think there's been of all the changes, I think that there's been quite a few complaints about this one, but I can't I think mainly because if you've got a big high point character with Energy Explosion, it's a bit rubbish. If you've got like a 4 or 5 damage or something like that, you probably never want to use it. Very rarely.
I'm okay with it. I think it gives Energy Explosion its own identity as like an actual a thing. Like you're not just doing an attack that explodes. You are doing an Energy Explosion. You're throwing your bomb rather than shooting somebody. It makes it feel like an active power rather than just something that sits there and happens to work.
Yeah. And it should still combo with Precision Strike anyway. And say Force Blast if they keep Force Blast the same. I think Psychic Blast is the only thing. Psychic Blast and Energy Explosion seemed a little bit overpowering. But this is why they never used to combo it. Only very rarely they actually give characters that combination. But often, you get it through sticking Brainiac on somebody or something like that to get that. But
yeah, it does say, as you said, the characters you can multi-target now, and they don't need to be adjacent to anyone to still use Energy Explosion.
Yeah, so you can still then deal 2 damage. So if you've got like a few lightning bolts, but you've got a low damage, you're actually getting a benefit if you think, oh, I can hit everybody for 2, rather than not often you want to spread your damage around, but it does say Green Arrow, who might have 3 lightning bolts but only 3 damage. He can do 6 damage altogether actually by hitting 3 targets and just dealing them all 2. So as I say, it swings around about.
So I have a question though, because it previously Energy Explosion said splash damage was dealt to untargeted characters, sort of thing, not like characters that win. Is that still the case?
No.
No, because they becoming targets of the attack. The counter adjacent to the original target become targets of the attack.
Right, so they would only get 2 splash damage, if you like.
Yeah, you can't splash them
double
3
target.
times or something.
Okay. Never mind.
Because you're only attacking that character once.
Yeah.
You're not hitting it 3 times. Just 1 attack. So
because there's no splash damage now, is it? It's just they become a target of the attack.
Yeah, they are being attacked, and you do 2 to everyone who is hit.
I thought that was the case, but then that sort of little bit in the article that talks about there being a slight buff to it, where if you target 2 characters, you're dealing 4 damage in total.
I think that's what we were just saying, total, because you're dealing, but not to the same character. You're dealing 2 damage to one and 2 damage to another one.
Or 6 damage total to 3 targets, and that's what threw us. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think a couple of other people have read it the same way, but no, you're hitting them with an attack, so you're not hitting them 3 times with 1 attack. So, okay, are we okay with that? And we'll move on to the last article, which is about probability control, which came out today. So basically, the nuts and bolts of it is, it says once per turn you may re-roll a target's counter attack or breakaway roll.
Easy.
So rather than just you can re-roll anything, you're basically stuck with attacks or breakaway. So there's been a lot of salty tears shed about blades and regen and support and things like that.
I'm okay with it.
But yeah, I think most of the time it is. I can't remember that well. Blades, I'd say minis, opposing characters tickle normally with blades roll, trying to prob that from the 6 that is automatically rolled, trying to get it down a bit. Regen, obviously you might, but I'm quite happy with regen and support being a bit more risky now, because it is always very disheartening to think I've nearly killed you and you've just healed up to your top click again. So having that as a bit more of a risk is fine by me. They have changed support a little bit, that it no longer says sort of unmodified attack and defense values. So with something like Perplex, for example, you could boost up your attack value to make it easier to hit with the support.
But they have specifically made it's not actually an attack.
Therefore, energy shield and combat reflexes won't come into play.
No, because it's not an
attack. But it never used to be an attack.
It's essentially you compare one against the other in the same way you would in an attack, but it isn't an attack.
Yeah, but currently the wording says unmodified or something like that, or printed or whatever. So now it doesn't say that. So if you have ways of modifying somebody's attack or defense, then you can do so, but not if it just says modifying it during attack. So Perplex is the obvious one, but there's probably a few other things. Which a lot of people have been complaining about regen, especially, I think, and saying it should be minimum 1 or something to make up for the fact that you can't reroll it. But I think if you compare it to support, you need 2 characters, you need no other characters adjacent, opposing characters adjacent to you, you need hit with your attack, and that says minimum 1. So I really don't think regen should be as good as that, because there must be a risk of failure. You can't just have I don't think automatic healing is good. I think you always need to have a chance of failing something.
There are a list of characters who do automatically heal, and you can see the points on them.
Yeah.
Things like what's the 100-point guy in the new set? Madcap. Is it Madcap?
Oh, Madcap.
Yeah.
Madcap.
If that guy was 100 points and didn't have that trait where he just keeps healing, that would be trash. we've had Wolverines that have options for free regen. You can, the points are built in there for it. There's a reason regen isn't all that expensive and why everyone has it last click. It's risky. It's like one of those. It's meant to show, I can come back from anything and save the day kind of thing. It's not necessarily you're actually regenerating. Iron Man doesn't regenerate. And Superman doesn't.
Yeah.
But they've had it because it is that kind of grit and kind of get back up. So I don't mind that being a bit of a risk for it. It's a long shot. If it works, great. But don't cry because you've lost it. Who cares?
Yeah. Can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
And if you want me to edit this out because it's not really relevant, I will. But it's just when you speak about Madcap, he's got that regen. That is when he takes damage. Roll a d6.
Not regen, though.
No, sorry. But when he takes damage, roll a d6 and heal him half the result.
Mm-hmm.
He also has that trait that says when he would be KO'd, or one of the versions do, you can KO another character with the Mercs for Money keyword instead, turn him to his last non-KO click and heal him 3. Would that be considered him taking damage by turning him to his last non-KO click and healing him 3?
No.
I'll have to say the word manage.
Because
that's ridiculously broken.
And I don't think it does because he's not being dealt damage. He is being set to a click.
It doesn't say when he's dealt damage. It says when he takes damage.
Hang on, this is the Madcap with the Deadpool corpse keyword rather than the Heroes for
It is,
Hire
yes.
one, yes?
Yeah.
So the trait, which is I'm the Deadpool brand mercenary you hired, want to put action for when another friendly character would be KO'd, you mean instead turn that character to its last non-KO clicks and heal it 3 clicks. Instead turn that character. Right, so once per action for all cards, what's the trait? Are you saying when his trait triggers or somebody else's trait triggers by him being KO'd?
So he is attacked, and that attack would result in him to being KO'd. So instead, he's turned to his last non-KO click. He then gets KO'd. He turns to his last non-KO click, KOs another character with that trait.
Yes.
And then heals 3. The fact you've turned him to his last click, is that considered him taking damage? And then therefore he can roll a d6 and heal also half the result.
Takes damage. Well, because if you've killed him, he will have taken damage.
It says when he would be KO'd, not when he is KO'd.
Yeah,
For
but
him to be
to
KO'd,
be
he
would
does have to take
KO'd,
damage.
he still has to take damage, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Probably, because you've got to kill him, which he would have taken damage. But then it says after action resolved, so the trait kicks in first and says you've killed somebody else. I'm going to turn him to his last click, heal him 3. But then the instant healing will probably kick in after the actions are resolved, because he says I've taken damage, so please heal me.
I'll tell you why I'm asking. That was played the other day at the lower venue, and there was nearly a riot because one person
You have to kill somebody else.
Yeah. One person basically had tried all game to kill Madcap, had got him down to where he could kill him, and instead he killed another Deadpool core member and healed him back up to top click.
Yeah. Well, tell you what, if you have any other Deadpool core members, kill them first.
Yeah.
Do not ever attack Madcap. If you have got choices, do not attack him.
So I would just like to say, if you're listening, Ant, Nick was right.
The thing
was.
is, we all talk about
that way.
Madcap because that's the one we've seen in action and things. But there's a Deadpool that does the same thing with a much longer dial for less. 2 clicks longer for less points. He might not be quite as annoying. Like, he's not as much of a tie-up piece. But Madcap is only a tie-up piece. This Deadpool can go, I'm going to just Blade Claws Fangs you for a boatload of damage, or teleport somewhere else, or he can do a whole load of things, and then turn it this version. The more I keep thinking about
that's the prime Deadpool isn't it?
The more I keep thinking about it, the more I'm thinking that the Deadpool may have a use with, if you can get something on him, like I don't know, like one of the possessors or one of these special objects. I don't know which one off the top of my head. But I'm starting to think that there's going to be option for it where he might actually turn it into something useful. It's just that that option for it is just too good. If you actually can push yourself, and that triggers the healing, or X-Men team ability yourself, and that triggers healing.
Because it's much harder to one-shot somebody with 7 clicks than it is with 5.
And imagine having 7 clicks and impervious, and then trying to kill this guy.
Yeah, I've hit you for 1 damage. Oh, I've healed 3.
Now I'm going to turn this. I'm going to turn into Blitzclaws Fangs one and just mess you up. Or now you've got 2 action tokens.
He's like a prime. You have to. It's annoying that it's a prime one though.
It's annoying. Is it annoying or is it a balancing factor that you're not going to see it everywhere?
Oh, well, I think it's just like, I have to collect all these rare figures to clear the shift and focus. Well, like compared to something like the Superman one, they're all reasonably easy to get.
The rare one was the crap one.
But yeah,
nicely.
Yeah. Yeah, so you've got to get all these, and you've got to get 3 different versions. You've got to get the 34A, B, and C, depending on which keyword you want. But anyway,
back on track. Right. Sorry.
Back on track. So that's all the rules articles, and they said that that is the last of like the big articles. So the big changes to like powers and stuff. So I just wanted to very quickly go over people's overall thoughts on them. I'll give you mine first then. I think it's the main plus for me is sort of the consistent and simplified wording. So, and also removing the need to try and remember which powers work with what, because I've tried to like limit that quite a bit. Dale is just sneezing fit as we speak.
I've tried to record it out of that, so it shouldn't be on it.
Yeah, you know, I have to do some editing there, Sean.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right, so they've made keywords more important, the things like leadership and mastermind, and trying to make theme team probability control a little bit better, like 300-point games. Another thing I like is not having to remember the 101 free actions you can do at the beginning of the turn. So that used to get my brain quite confused. Limiting the power of things that you can't counter. So obviously making Outwit a lot better. The removing of duplicate effects. So they're getting rid of can't use, ignore and counter. Things like that. And just a reduction in damage levels altogether. With things like the objects and hypersonic speed. So those are the things I really like. There's nothing I really dislike. I think there's maybe, I don't know, there's 1 or 2 powers that I think maybe didn't need the nerf that they got or something like that, but that's sort of by the by really. I think I'll live with that. I think the main plus for me is just a consistent wording. And if they stick with that for like the special powers, when we get a set that they actually, when the rules come out and the set specifically designed with that wording, then I'll see, as long as they stick to it and stick with the special powers, I don't like go back and then make the special powers not fit in with like how they worded the standard powers really. But
I'm pretty much the same. I like them as a whole. I think they do the job. The whole purpose of it was to make the game simpler and have less sort of questions raised about special powers and various other powers and how they combo. I think that they're doing an alright job to do that. There's some changes that I'm like, that's a shame. Shame I can't now hypersonic and also hit you with an object. But you know, it's not the end of the world. I think it's gonna the changes that they're proposing are gonna make games not last longer, but like, well, yeah, I guess last a bit longer because it's, you know, the damage is gonna be harder to deal large amounts of damage compared to now, with, you know, certain figures.
But I think it's also going to be easier to get rid of defense powers.
It is, yeah. So that
if you're looking at it and going, well, I've got 2 outwit, so you've got no defense powers, so whatever damage I can get through, it's going to stick.
It's certainly. I think outwit is now like going to be OP. the fact that
I think it's just bringing it back to what it used to be.
well, that
So-
that's. I mean, I haven't been obviously playing as long as you and Dale, so Outwit as it is now is as I've always played it. And the introduction of possessors has kind of, and you know, the more complex traits has kind of seen it get weaker and weaker, I guess. But yeah, I, as a whole, I like it. I was a bit unsure about the whole energy explosion when I first read it, but I actually, the more I've read over the article, the more I like that. The only one I'm a bit about is the probability control one. The fact that it can now only be used for attacks and breakaways is a bit poor, but
it is still the best power in the game,
yeah,
because you wouldn't want to build a team without probability control, and you can't really say that about anything else.
Yeah.
Because all the other ones will be, well, it depends what figures I'm playing.
Yeah.
But with probability control, it doesn't depend on what figures you're playing. You need probability control in a team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
But I think it's nice, going back to that, it's very nice with this slight buff to theme team probability control is now I'm thinking, well, I don't actually need normal probability control. I could probably get by with playing a little bit, playing like 5 figures and getting 5 theme team probability controls, and that'll probably do us.
Yeah.
Without having to think, oh, well, I do need a specific character that has probability control.
I do think you're going to see more theme teams now being played.
Hopefully.
Which, you know, yeah, I like it. I do.
You don't often, obviously, with the map roll and all, you know, the fact that the leadership will key off keywords as well.
Yeah.
Might encourage, you know, obviously encourage you to play that. And if you're playing like a swarmy team, then that bonus with leadership is also going to have like an effect that you think, oh, I'm going to get that extra, I'll get that guaranteed extra action as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I like it.
Have you recovered, Dale, to be able to respond?
I've started, and hopefully it won't come across so that you guys listening will not have to listen to me die of dust. But yeah, the changes I'm happy with. Basically, I think you've basically pinned out everything that I've been saying. You know, about the wording's easier. It's the case of, you know, here's the 10 phrases you need to learn. Here's all of the powers you have. They're all broke up into very straightforward sentences plus a keyword. It's going to be a lot easier to teach someone the game. As we said, you know, you're reducing the amount of damage everyone's going to be doing, increasing the number of clicks. Yes, you can outwit people's defense powers, but you can't outwit the fact I've got 10 clicks. That's just tough. You know, you have to hit that. You have to actually hit me to do those damages. It's just going to give it a game, or turn the game from being here's my tent pole, here's my supporter, here's my secondary attacker. Did my attack manage to one shot your main guy or everyone else? No, then I've probably lost the game. It goes from being the game at the moment where it's quite a lot of setup to do a very crucial point of attack or two, and then that's it. The game's basically won or lost in that moment, to a bit more of a kind of back and forth, and you know, I've managed to get a good hit on this guy, so he's now not as effective, but he's still going to be in there. So now maybe a support piece becomes like a tie-up to maybe a secondary attacker because he's lost his support powers, but he's not out of the game. And hopefully we'll get more than just 2, 3, 4 model teams, and you just have, you know, these 5, 6, 7 model teams swarming across there, and you actually have options in games rather than just, you know, a linear path because I'm playing one type of team and you're playing another. It's all going to boil down to whether a character hits his big attack or whether something happens before that. I'm excited for them. It's going to be easier to get people at the game, easier to explain things, less fringe cases, and it's more of a game, you know, that it evolves as you're playing it rather than you sit down, you know exactly how it's going to go, and it's just a case of we're rolling the dice and hoping that it goes your way.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, if only the retired Faust, but never mind.
Yeah, but there's the that ruling on Faust as well with the whole can't use.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's another one where it's like that no one read the power properly until somebody asked on Win and said, "It's his thing. It says powers. Can Nick Fury say you can't use those?" Yes, you're correct. So now you can outwit them all.
It's not.
You need a lot of outwits to try and get rid of all of his special powers before you roll some,
Yeah.
though. That's the only thing I'll say.
To be honest, the chances are, in most scenarios, the only ones that ruin your life is power dampener or back to your starting area. So I would cope with
Oh,
just
that power
two.
dampener I hate better.
That you can.
No, I don't mind getting sent back to my starting area. It's the power dampeners before that. The
Power dampeners are definitely the first
it's
one you
like-
want to get rid of. But if
Which,
you're in the
which
yeah.
come the new rules, he won't be able to do twice on you.
no, he won't.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I love these. I love these little kind of sideways nerfs. I can take that, Jakeem.
They should just get rid of him. Jakeem, I'm gonna love outwitting all of his powers.
yeah,
And dropping a tank on his head. Oh, he did.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to
great.
to play HeroClix 3.0.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It'd be exciting when they actually produce the new rulebook and the new pack.
Which we're still not sure, because they are getting a lot of starter sets out with the What If Elseworld set, supposedly, but whether the actual new rules will be in it, because it'll be a bit disappointing if the old rules set comes out in all these starters, and then, that'll be completely wasted.
Since the start, since the Elseworld stuff set to come out in June, and the new rules don't come into play until June, I would not hold your breath for a rulebook to be in that.
Are the
That would be a big shame,
is
though.
the Avengers Defender stuff starter sets? Or are they Fast Forces and then
It's
the
just the classic Fast Forces from what I've
I
seen.
think so. Yeah, I think the it's Elseworlds
The
and
Elseworlds
the
okay.
What If stuff that's going to have the starter set attached to them. So it will be, we'll have to wait and
July.
see, really.
because there's one in June,
Yeah.
one in July, isn't there? I believe. So,
Wait and see. Anyway,
okay, yeah. So
that's it for rules. That's a big long
It
one.
was. That was it. It's going to be a long episode. So we'll crack on with the team challenge then.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, because Dale, you had to go before the end of the last team road. It was your turn to pick, but you have picked a figure.
I did.
Do you want to talk through who you've picked and what your team is?
Yeah, so I picked the new con exclusive Captain America from Earth X. I think up until we were super excited about his leadership up until the new rules came out, and I'm still excited about it. It's just he's now not as unique in what he does, but he's still going to be good. I decided that I was going to go with Shield, and now that we know what the roughly what the new rules are going to look like, and where the cut-off point for the new rotation is going to be, I decided to challenge myself to that. Trying to build inside the new rotation, like outside of this rotation, going to the next one. Is if I'm 3 months down the line. I went with a Nick Fury team because he's still in there, so why not take advantage of him? Went Shield, so I took me Captain America, took my Nick Fury, took the 60-point Iron Man from the Civil War movie set, the one weighs 120 point 60 dial, went for the 60-point dial, and stuck in a 20-point Shield recruit as well. I also stuck on one of the only resources. Well, there's two left, I believe, afterwards. This and the Supreme Intelligence. Went with the Justice League Teleporter because the Avengers one's gone. Stuck on there 2 Shield level 7s, one for a Nick Fury, one for a Peggy, but I'd also have the Winter Soldier on the side just in case. I had the room spare. Had a Nightwing for the 25.1 or the 100.1, the Atom because that 15-point Atom is still going to be amazing. Black Panther for the 45.1 who stops free actions because I think that's quite handy, and the Lex Luthor again had the 45.1 or the 50.1 with TK and Plex just to be helpful call-ins. The main point is that I'm just going to have Iron Man and Captain America hopefully passing some leaderships, clearing Nick Fury, Iron Man carrying him around, and just getting Nick in the best positions he can. Just keep shooting him. Iron Man will also be able to clear off a token from Nick as well because they now share a keyword, and he has leadership as well on his top click. It's just a case of keeping Nick cleared using the ID cards, trying to keep the lower point ones so that Iron Man can call them in if he's not carrying Nick once you're in a good position. And that's about it, really. That's my team.
Cool.
Okay.
If I go next, then, because I think Chris, you're the one to pick
Yeah.
a figure from next time, so you can go last.
Okay.
I went with, and I apologise. I'll admit in advance, this is very highly influenced by a team that Chris actually played at the local venue. So I went obviously with Captain America FX. I paired him up with General Lane because they both share this soldier keyword, and General Lane grants Superman enemy team ability to characters who share keyword with him. He's only 40 points, so then I added a Nick Fury on there for 120 points, outwit for everyone, and a 50-point Pym particle tank with a 20-point shield recruit to pilot the tank. And I had 5 points left over for an ID card. The idea being General Lane gives everybody outwit. Pym particle tank has a 10 range with ignoring pretty much everything for targeting. And it can outwit, and because it has a pilot, I can also attack with it using its high explosive incendiary. So even if I miss, I'm dealing 1 damage to the target, and chances are I'll have outwitted your defense power before I do so. The tank is at least dealing 1 damage every time it attacks, and Captain America is hopefully, and General Lane has leadership as well, so I have 2 chances of removing tokens and 4 actions, so a turn. So yeah, that was me. The tank is a good taxi, can carry up to 3 passengers. In addition to my pilot, I can potentially move the entire team around. That was my team. No resource, just as is.
What ID card did you go for then, do you reckon?
Well, to be honest, I haven't put an ID card on my sheet, but I don't know. I'll probably go for something low points, maybe a
Nightwing.
I don't know. Yeah.
You can't go wrong
Yeah,
with a good
Nightwing.
Nightwing.
Yeah, Nightwing. Yeah, I'll go for that, Nightwing.
I would be tempted with Flash or something just to give that tank a bit more speed because it's really slow.
That gives it plus 3, doesn't it? Yeah.
Because when I was playing it, I was playing the 50-point Captain America who could then move it, but because he's going to be rotated, if you're looking at after rotation, because he was a really good one because it had the soldier keyword, so you can move it around. But yeah, it's a bit slow. That's what I've found when you're playing it. So you need to have, if you want to move, it's got sidestep on the 50-point dial, which is nice.
Yeah, I mean, I did,
but it doesn't go very fast.
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so my team have been just pretty lazy, really, to be honest with you. I was going to try and do something with the better suited for your foes, but then I realised the Captain America card will have been rotated, so I was a bit annoyed. But anyway, I'll just build a Pog team, really. So I've got Devil Dinosaur, Princess Python, Clarion, the Witch Boy, and Captain America. So that comes to 265, and I've just got a full teleporter. So I've put Nightwing, Red Tornado. I was just trying to go through all of the DC ones that are still going around. And because I couldn't fit in a Nick Fury because no one could call him in. So Nightwing, Red Tornado, 35-point Green Lantern, 100-point Wonder Woman, Black Canary, Green Arrow, 85. So there's Devil Dinosaur Pogs and the Python and Teakle. There's quite a lot of people you can take tokens off because obviously they're all 0-point figures. So when he does if he ever hits his special leadership, he's going to take tokens off a lot of figures. And obviously taking tokens off Python and Devil Dinosaur are pretty good because they need because Python can do power actions to move a Python around, so it's useful if she takes tokens off, even if she's not going to call anybody in. Having the extra action as well is useful because I think the dinosaurs might get an extra attack a turn, really, if you're looking at it, because the Pogs, Devil Dinosaur Pogs anyway, they don't count towards the action total for movement if you move them, but I think when you attack they do. so you can maybe pull off 4 attacks if you time it right. And that Python's quite nasty. You know, the Prince of Python for 30-point figure, sort of bring them in. And obviously you've got Tikal and Clarion give you Perplex and Prob. So you're bringing out loads of figures, you're trying to buff somebody up with your inspiration, and you know, if you can take then a token off Devil Dinosaur, he can call in maybe his attackers as well through the round table. So it was a bit boring, and I do apologise, but there you go. I was trying to think of something better, but I've been really busy.
You'd think they would have made a set release out this week.
Yeah, I've been really busy with sorting that out just about, and then I've just got to pack it all now and post it off to people.
Great. Well, Chris, it's your turn to pick a figure for the next build.
All right. Yes. Well, I've already told you what I'm going to be picking.
I was hoping you changed your mind.
Joking.
No. So obviously with Deadpool out, I wanted to pick something from Deadpool.
Fenris.
So I was looking at what are some of the better figures from the set, and I thought, well, I'm not going to pick any of them because that would make it too easy. So you mentioned that you've got one of these figures anyway, Sean. So you'll be obviously thinking about how best to put it in a team, and it is Bessie herself. It is Hellcow, which I really like. The real name is Bessie. So Hellcow comes in 50 points. It's got the animal and monster keyword. It's got those awesome stop clicks.
It's pushing it.
Well, you know, it does have steel energy and stealth. Yeah. So what I would like to see is not just a 250-point team and Hellcow.
You see, I'm thinking Dale's going to say my Justice League team with Animal Man and Hellcow on the side.
No, that's cheating.
That's basically the only thing I've already said. That's the only thing she's good for.
No, she's got to be on the map there, and I think you can put some effort into thinking how you're gonna use her properly, because she's a taxi. She can sidestep. She's got support, and come on, I'm sure you can think of ways to get her attack up a bit higher.
I'll give it my best.
To put that steel energy into effect.
I do have to say this, and I apologise in advance, but I'm utterly disgusted that you picked Hellcow.
That's bull.
Oh dear. She's just a useless cow.
Yeah.
Why?
Now
Literally.
You're milking it now.
Move on.
Anyway,
move on.
moving on.
Moving on.
Oh dear.
If you can fit some more puns into the team as well, that'd be great.
Okay, great. Right, okay, so how it is. Right, so on to tactics now. Dale, do you want to, because you missed out last week on doing tactics, so I'll let you take over now.
Yeah. So what I was going to talk about is kind of evolved over while I was looking into it. My original plan was to look at the kind of archetype of teams that are out there. You got Die teams, the Jakeem teams, the Quinjet teams, and why they are really the only like power teams you see. There's various versions of them, but they all work on the same core. And then when I started looking into it, I kind of came to a bigger kind of meta realization, and kind of as to why this is actually a thing in the first place. Now, for me, I think it all boils down to resources. Resources have always been ridiculously powerful. When the first one came out, the Infinity Gauntlet, out of the top 16 teams in the world, it was in every single one. The batteries came out, and I believe in the top 32, I think something like 28 were playing them when I was there, and a couple of teams that were the only teams I spotted that weren't playing it were, there was very specific Phoenix Force teams, and there was one person who wasn't playing one because he was playing the Justice League team base, which didn't have the points for it. Now, so so everyone's kind of fitting in a resource. There is limited use for the round table. I like it. We've obviously made almost all made teams based on it on the thing of the team challenge this month, and we've talked about The options for it, the swapping the characters out, better suited. That's really good. That's really helpful. There's ways you can make that work, but it just doesn't compare with flat stat boosts. So that leaves you with is a reliable stat boost and a reliable resource is really only the Pandora's box. Now, so that's become that's basically everywhere. That's where the kind of meta revolves around, is the box, because unlike the possessed, the entities and the battery combos, where you're getting loads of Lantern Corps members with stat boosts from all over the place, so you're getting +1 to whichever stat you wanted from your entity, and then +1 to everything from the ring, and almost everyone's getting pretty much the same kind of feel, and the book there with loads of attack. We're in a world where the most powerful resource, it gives extra defense. That's more all it gives: sidestep and either combat reflexes, +1 just flat, or energy shield. So because of that, and there is no counter to it in that there's no resource or very common thing that everyone can take that gives access to really high attack, that's become the kind of set focal point for it. So if you got Jakeem, who takes advantage of it because he is pretty much just the strongest all-around piece, and he just kind of rafts it so well on him that he kind of fits the blanks that he's missing. That's the core as far as I see the meta being shaped around it. From there, the reason the Quinjet beats that is because of how flexible it is. If you've got 7, 8, 9 characters you can call in to do various attacks, as a one-off, you can pick the right tool for the job. That's why I've seen the rise of Green Arrow popping out, because his attack is so high and his options are insane. You've got Nick Fury, you can just outright turn off powers, does penetrating damage against your big guys, hits almost all the time, on top of a plethora of other characters who all have this kind of thing, and they're all they all have something that means that they can counter the high defense by definition. And the other one, the non-dying team, just feeds into it. You get your characters that don't die. You make them even harder to hurt, so that it's even harder to get them to the coma countdown clicks. So they basically just sit there, putting the extra tokens on themselves, give them extra defense, give them extra maneuverability and sidestep, and the game ends, and they've basically took one thing from you, an ID card maybe. All just kind of came from thinking our Whiskers Open in Newcastle, we had someone who hit top 8 with 10 points, and that's 10 points he got from, of course he won a couple of roll-offs, but when he got 10 points from a loss. I came second, getting tabled. My last out of 4 games got tabled, 0 points for it. I beat a Do Not Die team by 10 points. Didn't table anyone the whole day and still managed to get second place. Just kind of made me realise that there is there's a very defensive shape of the meta at the moment. I think it does boil down to the fact that no item out there gives you this crazy attack in the same way that 2 years ago, when the book was everywhere, there was no huge defense. It was all just about you have insane attack and everyone basically hits all the time. That's basically it's not. There's no tactic to take away from it. There's no bigger. I'm not trying to give hints away. Just a look at the meta and why it could be shaped, and so you can then take this as a jumping off point from where we're at now and think, well, what's missing? What's going to change when the new meta comes in? When the rotation goes out and you can't have ridiculous defense on everyone.
Yeah, I think there's another. If you're going to go aggressive, I think there's it's limited options. It's basically most of what it seems to be is just on teams or big robot plus just on to get you 2 attacks and to go aggressive that way. I do think that the Pandora's box, one of the reasons that people didn't like it when it came out was it's a power action. So if you compare that to the book, which got, I have split lip, it's a free action to assign my things. I think that's one thing that you should be able to try and make use of if you're coming across a defensive, Pandora's box type team. And I really do think, which is I'm going to complain to you, Dale, about how you played your Quinjet team, is you should have really gone aggressive towards it, because the one thing is it's got to have power action to start putting it, especially if you're playing Faust as well. What you don't want to do against like Faust team, which is another thing that's infected the meta as well, is just you do not want to give him more turns than you really need to roll those lockdowns. So I think things like, if you're looking up towards our nationals and looking at, right, what I want to play, what can beat Jakeem and Faust, what can beat defensive, really high defense teams, I think just like getting in the face straight away. I think like trying to go first if you can, because that helps. Because if you're moving into position turn 1, then that's putting them into position of, do I want to start attacking you, or do I want to putting relics on? Things like, I think Krang plus tank is in a good position, because they do that sort of damage that can really take out a lot of things. I do think if you want to try and beat, either you go defensively or you go really aggressive. I think there's a lot of teams that might fall in the middle and just go, well, I can't Alpha Strike, so I have to spend like 2 turns getting to you, and by that time Jakeem's all relicked up, Faust has had 2 turns to like lock you down. I think teams that are sort of sitting in the middle there, that maybe can't do either of those, or in maybe a little bit of a bad position at the moment. So, I don't know what you think, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of like, as you say, Dale. It is at the moment it is a high defense kind of meta, I think. And looking forward, like to the future, come rotation and stuff, and the figures that have recently come out, they all tend to be around about the same damage value, and the changes that they're making that Chris discussed in the rules in terms of, getting rid of ultra heavies and what have you. It is kind of what's the word I'm looking for? It is kind of looking at those figures and trying to figure out what will be the new meta come rotation. I mean, you'll still have Jakeem around, of course, but he's not going to be as effective once the new rules come out without wit.
But he won't get, he won't get willpower. He won't be getting combat reflexes so easily. Yeah. So his defenses will be less. He'll have to start thinking about, do I put Supreme Intelligence on me to give me willpower? Outwit will then hurt him. Things like that. So it is that. Yeah, it's kind of, it's like, I mean, I've said this many a time. I haven't been playing as long as you, so I'm not aware of what the meta was like around about, in Infinity Gauntlet and all of those early resources. Well, I haven't been playing that long either. So
but obviously, yeah. But I'm aware of the book and how gross that was, and obviously the power batteries, the lantern batteries. But the meta from even from then has shifted so much. And is now more defensive than, but obviously with those resources rotating, it's going to shift again, and people are going to be easier to hit, although you're not going to be dealing as much damage, if that makes sense, because of the figures that are coming out. I think
there's a lot of with things like Justin gone. You've got it's much harder to get an Alpha Strike off. I can't really think of a huge, things like drones as well. So something like, I don't know, Jean Grey might TK Nick Fury, for example. That might be a decent sort of Alpha Strike, but still you've not got drones to follow up. But even your resources, you can't give Nick, like, say, Range Combat Expert or something like that. You're going to be doing his sort of set damage, so I might be doing 4 damage. You might not have much, like, less damage bumps and things like that, less modifiers going off.
I mean, currently you can have, like, with the current rules, you can have Jean Grey TKing somebody who then sidestep, calls in an ID, and you attack with the ID. You're not going to be able to do that come come the
No,
new rules.
because you can't be doing the free actions before you call somebody in at the beginning of the turn.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so it might be a little
So
bit.
yes, it's all changed.
So
There is change coming, but for the moment, there's our as the three of us going through it. You either play super defensive and try and beat them as that, or you go unbelievably aggressive. Make sure you can whack across the map, and by the third turn, make sure you get that first one and just shoot before they get the tokens on. I think is probably the best option.
yeah, so also a nice middle ground is somebody that can do either. So if you have the flexibility to go, well, I can go aggressive if I want to against certain teams, or I can just sit back and play this sort of long game. Because, obviously you're not going to be facing the same teams all the time. So some teams you're going to need to play a sort of different approach, which I think...
And that's why there is obviously loads of versions that do pretty much the same thing, but that's why Jakeem and the Quinjet stand out as like the strongest, because they have the option of doing players both.
Yeah.
If the Quinjet can get across the map, kick somebody out and shoot you before you know what's going on, or you can sit at the back and you can slowly play a long game and just pour out more characters than you can deal with.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's enough of us talking meta and talking airy-fairy about rubbish that makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, it is getting late now, and we have been talking for quite a while. So, unless there's anything else that you guys want to cover, then I think maybe we should just wrap up now.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, cool.
Cool.
So, so you can, I'll say the usual. You can find us on Facebook. We're on Twitter and also on YouTube. So, the usual addresses that we see every podcast. But yeah, so if there's nothing else, then we'll just say bye. So until next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.